I'm Julia Heilrayne. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm a sophomore in high school here. So when I was 10 years old, the summer before my fourth grade year, my mom came out as gay and my parents got divorced. And at first it was really hard for me. It was like, no, but I got over that. It didn't take that long. And I got a lot of questions from people at school and they were like, wait, what's gay? What does that mean? Like, I wasn't really equipped to answer the questions coming from other people. And so I was very uncomfortable through that whole thing. And then I left that school and I switched to public school. And at first I didn't really tell anyone that my mom was gay because I just sort of kept that hush hush because I didn't know what the environment was like at this new school. I didn't know how accepting people were. And slowly it became common knowledge and it wasn't really ever a big deal until a few years ago, my mom got married to my stepmom. That's when sort of the next wave of questions started to come. And it was like, oh, wait, so you have a stepmom and a dad and a mom. So is your dad remarried? Wait, I'm confused. So all of my friends they're well aware of how my family works, but I have some people who are like acquaintances or not as good friends who are still confused several years after my moms have been married. So one day at lunch, I was eating lunch with my friends, and this guy came up to me, and I mean, I know him, we're not close, but I do know him. He goes, "Are you gay?" Just out of the blue. And I was like, "No." And he goes, "But your mom is gay." And I was like, "Yeah, they both are actually." And he goes, "Wait, how are you not gay then?" And I was like, "Well, she produced a child. She didn't produce a gay. She actually produced a straight." And they get like very confused and like, "Wait, so it's not like brown hair?" And eventually people started to sort of come to terms with, okay, she has a stepmom and a mom and a dad, and they're all a family, and I don't quite know how, but that's how it works. And then 16 months ago, my baby sister was born. And so my stepmom gave birth to her, but my biological mother is equally her mother. And that's when sort of the next wave of questions came. And those questions haven't stopped. And it was, wait, hold on. How did that happen? You know, it was as if people thought that there was no other way to acquire a child other than a man and a woman mashing their genitals together or adoption. Like, those are your two options. Which box do you want? Like, for instance, one day I was walking down the hall and this girl walked up to me and I'm following her on Instagram. I know her name and that's pretty much all I know about her. And she walks up to me and she goes, "You have a baby sister." And I was like, "That I do." And she's like, "I saw a picture of her on Instagram." I was like, "Cool." She was like, "But don't you have two moms?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And she was like, "How did it happen?" And I was like, and that was the first time I had gotten like an explicit "your mother's sex lives" question. I was just kind of like, I'm really uncomfortable right now. And I was with one of my friends who is very good at taking weird questions and making them funny. And he goes, "Yep, pretty much." And we both just walked away. It's gotten to the point where I just think it's funny and I find humor in it because otherwise I would just be mad all the time. And so, if someone says, "Oh, where did your baby sister come from?" Target. We found her on the shelf. We should buy the cereal. Or like, "Oh, wait, how did that happen?" Like, I don't get it. Well, imagine a turkey baster. It makes people super uncomfortable. Or when people are like, "Wait, but you have two moms." Like, I don't understand how that happened. I'm like, well, what position were your parents in when you were conceived? And people's like, their eyes get really big and their face go white and then they just walk away. I'm like, bye. And so I've just gotten to a place where I do find humor in the whole, it's just like, it's the way that I deal with it. So I think when my parents first got divorced, I was mad at them a little bit. I didn't know how to answer the questions. I didn't know how to address just even the questions about divorce. And as, my mom got married and then Vivian, the questions became more and more frequent and more personal. I think for someone who has questions, it's not a bad thing to be curious. We're all curious about things we don't know about. I would say first, ask the person if they're okay answering questions. Be like, "Hey, can I ask you about your family?" Like, that feels awkward, but that person will appreciate it. I think if someone were in my position, but, maybe me 6 years ago, or even me like 3 or 4 years ago, I would want them to know you're going to get questions. Some of them are going to be super awkward and super weird. Just expect that. Just like learn how to answer them, learn what you're comfortable with. Don't think that your family is less of a family because of the structure or the dynamic there. It's still a family. It still works the same way. We still get up and eat breakfast and scream at each other and go to school and, you know, eat dinner, go to sleep, repeat. It's this, I mean, it's the same basic thing. There's just a lot of boobs.